G'day everyone. Continuing this how-to series, we get to the point where we want to know where to go fishing. When you're beginning, of course, you're just going to be fishing your home zone. You're not going to be going on massive trips around your country or the world to exotic fishing locations. You're basically just going to walk down to the closest bit of water you have and cast a lure out and see if you can catch a fish. I get that, and I have a pretty interesting story about that. What type of fishing you do limits what type of fish you're going to catch. Even if you're fishing waters that have a range of different species, if you're only using one technique, you're probably only going to catch a handful of fish, and these other types of fish you'll just never even know exist because they're not going to hit your bait or they're not going to hit your lure. You might have a limited perception of what fish are available to you in your area because of the way you've fished in the past or the way that most locals fish. When I was a kid, I did a lot of bait fishing and I would catch brim, I would catch whiting, flathead. Every once in a while, I would catch a tailor. We would catch small trevally, dart. I would basically catch the bread and butter species that are available in my area. I think a lot of the time I'd use like chicken gut, worms, stuff like that. Like bought bait at the servo, head down to the beach with a hook and a sinker, chuck it out and see what I catch. Caught a few fish that way. It was rad. After years of doing that, I had a pretty clear image of what fish were in my home zone. It wasn't until I matured as a fisherman and came back years later with a totally different approach. Instead of just super light stuff, I would use a medium setup, P3, P4, and I'd be casting pretty decent sized lures out there. Sure enough, in the right time of year, tuna hit, mackerel hit, cobia hit, kingfish, all these bigger species that I had no idea existed in my area. All of a sudden I was connecting with them, and that basically blew my mind that these fish were out there in my area and I could target them. I'm assuming most of you, like me, are land-based fishermen. If you're a young kid, you probably don't have a boat. Land-based is basically what you will be focusing on. You can catch some crazy stuff from land. I'd say that almost every species you can catch from a boat, you can catch from land. It's just harder. It's more rare to connect with those fish from the rocks or from the beach, but totally possible. My point with all of this is don't feel limited by your home zone. Your home zone should be your stamping ground. That's where you need to cut your teeth on all of your fishing skills. Whatever you have available, even if it's what you think might be a crappy little zone, if it connects to a big ocean, you have the opportunity to catch really cool fish. You just got to put in the time. There's nothing like spending hours and days and weeks and years peppering your home zone and learning the way your home area works. You can keep a diary and you can write down what time of year you start catching this, what time of year you start catching that. Go back and look, on this date I caught my biggest ever mulloway. It was this moon phase and it was this tide and it was this time of day. That is amazing information. A lot of really good fishermen keep a diary. Getting a little bit sidetracked here, but you're mostly going to be spinning your local home zone. Don't look too far away yet. Just get used to your home area. You have so much learning to do down in your local before you even think about going on a trip. So very first tip on where to fish is fish your local home zone. You'll be surprised at what type of fish are there, and as you mature as a fisherman, you'll probably start catching bigger and better fish. At some point you will cap out what you can catch in your local area, and you'll want to start doing trips and you'll want to start looking to other areas. So that's what this next section is going to be about. It's going to be about new territory and how to find it. Just like in your home zone, it's very important to know the seasons of any place you're planning on traveling to. There could be monsoon season for rain, it could be pissing down, it could be super hot where you can't even go out onto the rocks because it's too hot to fish in the middle of the day. Box jellyfish or irukandji or something dangerous could be there during a certain season. That's just the environmental side of it that affects your day-to-day camping life or adventures that you're going to go on. What species of fish you can target is heavily affected by the season as well. So the first thing that I do when I'm thinking of going to an area in my country or someone else's country is I try and work out what fish are available at what time of year. The best thing to do is go onto Facebook and look for deep sea fishing clubs or fishing clubs in the area that you're planning on traveling to. You may be able to see everything in that group by default, or you might have to join that group. Once you're in, you'll start to see pretty interesting things. You'll see that May 1st this year, it's the first picture of a Spanish mackerel from that area. Then all these Spanish mackerel pictures started increasing during June and then peaked in July, and there's just mackerel everywhere, and then it started tapering off in August and September. The last mackerel photo was seen in October. That's one little year that you're looking at. These fishing clubs also have photos that date back years, so you have a rough idea with that first year. You go back to the previous year and you see actually it wasn't May, the first mackerel showed up in April. You start to get a more clear picture of when this fish is available in that zone. Go back through all of the years that that club has and surrounding clubs up and down the coast in that area, and you'll get a very clear understanding of what species of fish are available at what times of year. Local fishermen love sharing their catch with their local mates, and traveling fishermen who are coming to their area can very quickly work out the seasons for their zone. The next thing I'll look at is charters. You just go to Google and Google charter in the area that you're looking at up and down the coast. You might not find one in the exact town that you're planning to go to or the exact zone. Go to a bigger town and there should be charters coming out of that place. Go to the charter website. Some charters have a little calendar that shows you every month of the year which fish species are available during that month, and they'll also have big write-ups on their page saying come in August and you'll be catching cobia, marlin show up in November, blah blah blah. They'll talk it all up. You can get a lot of information out of charters. If you combine those two things, charters and Facebook groups, you are pretty golden as to knowing the season for any area that you're planning on traveling to. Once you have that seasonal information, the next step is to go to Google Maps. If you're looking at the mainland of the country, look up and down about 500,000 kilometer zone within that area where you know the season, and you pretty much just want a headland that sticks way out that has deep water and current running past it, which is basically a highway for big fish in general. If I'm looking at an island, I'll be looking at the same thing, a headland or a platform that sticks out into deep water where I know on one side of the island, on the incoming tide, the current's going to hit it. I'm going to get a nice pressure edge on that side of the island, and on the outgoing tide, I want another little platform, some kind of zone in there where I'll get another pressure edge on the outgoing tide. They're two key things I look for, and then in between those zones, I look for nice little light tackle fishing areas just to pass the time when you're not spinning those big fish zones. Google Maps the hell out of it, look up and down and try and get a few places you reckon look good and look remote. You don't want an area where you see a town right next to the headland. It might be a great ledge, but if it's too easy to get to, you're going to have a lot of people down there. If you're like me, you're going to want the zone to yourself without any pressure from other fishermen who might be off you for fishing their local ledge or using a different technique than you. Maybe they're live baiting and it's going to get in the way of using lures. You don't want a zone that's so remote that it's impossible to get to, but you want it to be remote enough that there's not going to be people everywhere. I know I've been to some spots no one's ever set foot on. They've definitely fished it from a boat. No one has ever jumped off and tried to fish these spots land-based. Just the adventure side of that, like the feeling that you're the first person to ever stand on this rock and cast off it, is bloody amazing. Even if you don't get as good a fish at that spot as you would of a mainstream ledge where everyone is and they're all catching big fish, if you get the fish half as good as what they got, but you're in your spot that you discovered and you did all yourself, there is something very special about that, and I highly recommend going the extra mile and trying to find your own zone that no one fishes. It can definitely pay off the other way as well, where you get a better fish than you would have got if you went to that mainstream ledge. Another tool that I used to use a lot is Navionics, and it basically gives you the depth of the ocean. If you have a headland that you like the look of, you go to Navionics and you can check, 100 meters out, it's 30 meters deep there. It's not super accurate close into land, but you at least get a rough idea that there is some nice deep water there. I highly recommend getting Navionics or some other app that will show you the depth of the ocean. It can be very useful for choosing spots. Once you've got a few little headland names that you think might be good, do the extra research and look at videos, look at drone footage, look at images of that spot and try and work out, is this actually fishable? You might have the coolest spot ever on Google Maps and you see it and it's just totally not fishable. That's the next stage. If you get a few that look good and you reckon, wow, Google Maps looks good, it looks good from this drone footage I saw of it, the next thing that I'll do is I'll type headland name and fishing into Google and into YouTube. That could come up with images, it could come up with videos of people fishing, usually boat fishing. Even if you see a video of a boat catching a good fish off that headland, it's a good indicator that there's fish in the area and they're gonna go past that ledge. Furthermore, I also search headland name, fishing, and forum. You can find old forum posts about that spot, about that headland, about that island. You could get a little gem of information where the dude says, yeah, I hiked all the way in and sure thing, as soon as I rocked up, I cast out and caught a big GT. Or maybe they say there's just coral trout all around the bottom of the rocks there. It's a really sick ledge. Using your research skills and your knowledge of seasons and what the Google Maps zone looked like for that area, images you saw, videos, whatever forum information you could get, piecing all of that together and then actually going there and seeing what it's really like, that's where you start to gain experience and knowledge from this process. The first couple ones you do, you might go to crap areas. That's actually not a bad thing. You will learn from that. Oh, I actually looked at this Google Map zone and that image, oh, I had the scale totally wrong. Those big blocky rocks that were there are way too big to climb up and down and I thought they were small small, but it's way too big and I couldn't actually fish that area. I had to fish this other crappy area. And use the measure tool too, by the way. On Google Maps, definitely use the measure tool to try and get distances. If you think, oh, I want to fish this headland and then I'll just walk around to this other one and have a fish there, you might find that that's actually like 15 kilometers to the other one or something, and you're not going to just be having a casual stroll to that other ledge. So yeah, measure tool really good in Google. I forgot to tell you that. Once you've pieced together your puzzle, go and try it. You'll learn a lot. Hopefully it's a really good zone. If not, you'll learn as well, and next time you'll do it differently. But this is the process that I use to find new ledges. I hope this gives you a little step in the right direction, but put in the hours and learn this stuff for yourself. If you have put hundreds and thousands of hours into something, you're going to have a whole different understanding of that thing than if you just watched a video on YouTube. So please put in the time and learn this for yourself. But I hope this helped you get that first step and gave you at least some kind of direction as to where to head. The next film, we're going to be talking about the time of day. I'll try and get that up as soon as possible. You